will help you discover the formula of business success with smart data and scalable storage. You will also learn about the groundbreaking PowerStore family of all-flash data storage appliances that eliminate traditional trade-offs in performance, scalability, and storage efficiency. With a data-centric, intelligent, and adaptable infrastructure that transforms and mobilizes both traditional and modern workloads. Before I introduce you to our speakers, I would like to do a very special announcement. We have been giving exciting prizes by Dell throughout our webinar series, and this particular webinar will also be sponsored by Dell to give you some exciting gifts and prizes. So please keep polling. Moving on to our panelists, I would like to invite Mr. Akhilur Rahman, CTO, Hitachi ABB Power Grids India. Mr. Nikhil Bandi, Executive Vice President and Chief Information Officer, Vistar Financial Services. Ms. Ratna Prabha, Managing Director, Head of Innovation and Digital Transformation India and Romania, Associate General Global Solutions Center. Mr. Aditya Venkatesh, Senior Manager Consulting, Redington India Limited. Kapil Jain, Senior Systems and Engineer, Storage Platform Solutions, Dell Technologies. Mr. Sumanth Chavan, Founder and CEO, Chavan Technologies. And our session would be moderated by Sheena George, Partner, EY. Without further ado, I would now invite Sheena to take the discussion forward. Over to you, Sheena.
Thank you, Shirley. Warm welcome to all our panelists here, as well as our SMR experts from Dell and Redington. Today's session, as Shirley has introduced to us, is around smart data and smart data storage. And we have an esteemed group of panelists who will help us debate this topic in more detail. Without much ado, I'm going to get our roundtable started. And I would like to start first with you, ma'am, Ratna. If you can, if that's okay with you, and if you can unmute yourself. Good morning, ma'am, and warm welcome to this session today. Today we would like to hear from you in society general. How is it that your strategy has been around data? What are your challenges, and what are some of the business asks from you around data, and how does it help you tackle some of the key business decisions that your business has to take using data?
It's a lot of questions. Okay. Okay. So from a data perspective, I think it's been a growing challenge for us for the last 5 years, or a little over 5 years, as far as I remember. Of course, the data volumes have been growing tremendously, and the way we look at data, the way we are using data, the way we are replicating it, storing it. So all of this has been looked at from a 360-degree view. And the additional problem of sharing data between internal SG businesses for the same customers is also a huge challenge because of the China walls we have built for data privacy purposes, and then data sharing across geographies for the same kind of customers has also been an issue. And then we're also looking at a lot of regulatory and compliance related policies that we need to follow from a data standpoint, ensuring customer privacy, adhering to all the geographical data adherence policies. So all in all, I think there has been a tremendous shift in the way we looked at data. I would at least say 5-6 years ago, where it was very simple. Our data centers we just had to have our data centers function well without going down, make sure our servers are able to handle capacity, and the transaction processing capabilities of high servers had to be kept nominal. But those days are gone. Today, what we're really looking at is how are we storing data, for sure. We have a hybrid cloud strategy. We have data on-prem in our private cloud. We, of course, have our data centers, and then as a bank we took a little bit of time to go to public cloud, but we have embraced public cloud, the Microsoft Azure cloud, at least since 2016, and it has been very interesting on how we have migrated and manage data between these various storage, how we retrieve and process, how we encrypt and store data, and how, especially with customer data, how um, how we ensure data privacy, how we access it, how we process it. So there's an entire data governance, I would say, for each geography that is governed by the CDOs in each of the geographies. Each of our businesses, especially the international banking, the investment banking and private banking and retail banking, each of them are managing their data using the chief data offices, the data transformation offices. All of these offices have been set up successfully. They work in tandem. But the most important part is they are driven by a solid strategy behind managing all of this data. To us, I think the most important thing is how, of course, the data privacy and the data security is extremely important, but the way we retrieve and process it at great speed and making useful insights out of this using our analytics and AI engines has been our focus in the last 3 to 4 years. So data and AI is core part of our strategy for both IT and businesses. All our data scientists across the various businesses in SG Group are with the businesses and less with IT. So that talks a lot about businesses driving their the way they process their data, the way they use their data, and it's very interesting for IT to literally follow and work in tandem with the businesses.
Thank you, ma'am. So what I'm hearing from you is you've kind of embarked on this journey. You referred to 2016, probably before that. You're already on a hybrid cloud journey, and you have been able to establish your governance models around that data. You do have Chinese walls to manage because of security and compliance related reasons, but you have established a strategy where you are on your journey to cloud. You've embraced public cloud where you could, and you've also built your core strategy and strength around analytics and AI. So that's great insight, ma'am. Just two follow-up questions. So when you said you did your transition from your on-premise data-centric approach onto your more public cloud, say Microsoft Azure, was the transition around just the storage, or was it also around the applications itself and modernizing those applications to be able to leverage cloud better? And how did that work for you? How did the journey work for you? And how did you build the whole ROI around this?
So that is still a journey. So the modernization of processes and modernization of the IT applications is a 3 to 5 year long journey for us. It has begun, and we have over 1,000 applications that we need to take care of in terms of migration into cloud, and it's not easy to do it all in one shot. So we have a roadmap for 5 years. We are almost in the middle of it, and as an offshore entity, we are a major contributor to data the IT application modernization, as well as data/application migration into cloud. So that I think that is more or less led by the offshore IT teams. So having said that, to answer your question on how we manage our strategy around moving to cloud, it has not been easy. In a way, I think we are more an adopter of a private cloud strategy and less of public cloud, and that's quite normal for a European bank to adopt the strategy. But what is interesting is, we've understood the scale at which you need to be on public cloud for you to get all the benefits, and since we are not using public cloud at the scale at which we could potentially use, we are a little bit slow on that, and between the businesses of retail, international, and investment banking, there is a strategy to look at along with the infrastructure teams to see how we could scale up our public cloud usage and the right business cases for it and the right applicative usage, and to increase it from X to Y is a plan that is ongoing. So we have started the journey, but definitely we are using it less than 20% at this point of time, and we have an idea to go further up and scale it up. But the private cloud usage is definitely higher than the data center, so that to us is a huge advantage. So even migrating from the data centers to the private cloud has been an effort, and as you rightly said, I don't think we are able to do it with the current application structure. We are having to modernize most of our applications to be able to hypervise, to be able to do the containerization and then move. So all of those efforts are in progress. It's a little slow. I think we do in the next 2 years we will be able to do 500 at a time. But I think by 2023, 2025, we should be an all cloud organization. But I don't expect it to be sooner than that.
Thank you, ma'am. That was well articulated. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. I'm going to quickly move to our expert panel here, and maybe I'll invite you, Kapil. What we heard Ratna ma'am say are true real life scenarios that our clients were going through, and I could surely resonate with what Ratna ma'am said, because on the one hand, you do want to optimize your costs, get onto cloud, leverage the best cloud platforms. But that's the longer journey of bringing your making your applications process and your what's been your experience with clients who are undergoing this transformation journey, especially with regards to application modernization? If you could just focus, and how can someone like SG leverage some best practices to fast track this journey?
Yes. Thank you. Such a great insight that you have provided. In my experience, it is it is actually good to hear that a lot of organizations have already started the journey towards a cloud journey, you can say, or a digital transformation journey, and that's the way to go. And we should also need to see, because as Ratna Prabha said, right? So a few applications have been moved out, and they are playing in phases. In the future, that the rest of the applications will also be moved out. I'm sorry, there's some construction going on, so you may hear some sound. So it's important to understand that in order to process that digital transformation journey, our base infrastructure also needs to be strong enough to support that. Our applications needs to be in such a way that it is easier or feasible to migrate to the cloud that we are looking to migrate to. And not only that, it is important again to understand that what kind of data do I have, right? So rather than having a cloud first mindset, it's important to understand what kind of data do I have, what is its important, where should I place the data, when should I place the data, and so on. And then decide, which is my critical application, which requires a disaster recovery scenarios, etc. And there are a lot of factors that comes into play when we actually try and go ahead with the modernization. And that's definitely a long journey, but that's a step-by-step process. And it's really good to hear that Ratna Prabha said they're already in process, and that's the way to go. But again, just we need to remember that we need to have that strong base infrastructure that can help us in migrating or co-locating the important data where it needs to be done.
Thank you, Kapil. Thank you so much, and we'll come back to this conversation again. I'm going to quickly move on to Mr. Rahman. Sir, if you could come on video and unmute yourself.
Yeah.
There you are. Thank you, sir. Warm welcome to the session. So you've kind of heard how we are warming up to our topic here. And at ABB, you have different types of businesses, a very different industry from the banking industry we are just hearing about, but very similar and probably very high data volume, data growth on your side. And very critical from your business perspective to use that to leverage a lot of day-to-day decisions, I would presume. So it would be good to hear your story in terms of how you're dealing with the demands that your business has with regards to data and handling data, but also how you've dealt with the pandemic in terms of catering to the technology needs of keeping your business running. So, thank you.
Okay, so thank you. I would address two different aspects. One, of course, what as a company, what we are doing. We are into energy, the technology company, innovating company, and the other one is also what we do for our customers. Basically, the energy utilities and also the industries where energy is the key, the power is the key, and we do automate this process of energy, the power generation, transmission, distribution, connecting them, and then this is very complex network of huge amount of data, and this has been there for several decades. Automating all these, connecting with different sensors in the system, in the utilities, in the generation, transmission, distribution, also the plants. Sensors, actuators, controllers, and then huge volume of data. And every millisecond, the data is produced from different entities. And taking those data and also sort of creating, we call it historian. So this has been there for last 3-4 decades. Including starting from the mainframe computer and then the distributed control systems and all we have been doing it. It's very important that this data is available in real time. When I say real time, it is in millisecond, 1,000th, of a second. And we should not miss the data because many times these actuators, sensors, they operate in millisecond. So you don't miss the data. Second, the integrity of the data. Very important is also availability of the data because there are a lot of algorithms, mathematical algorithms, sophisticated, very complex algorithms which are running in the system to control all these, thousands of different type of sensors, take the data from sensors, control the actuators, and also having the control systems. So what we do is, in terms of real-time data, I call it real-time automation of utilities or industry or automation of industrial processes. So there we have, we ensure that the availability of data is very important. If you see, just compare it with IT, where IT, we call it in cybersecurity also, terms that confidentiality, integrity, and availability. This is confidentiality. In our domain, the real-time automation domain, where you have a lot of sensors, actuators, machines, equipment, robotics, and all they are there, availability is very, very important. So the sequence is reversed. The availability of the data, availability of the system is the first one, then integrity and confidentiality. So what we do is we have our own system real-time database. So it collects data in milliseconds, sub-milliseconds sometimes, and then we create archive, historian basically, and then it is available for real-time analytics, using it for machine learning algorithm, artificial intelligence, from enterprise point of view, what we do is we segregate into two. One is the real-time automation data from the processes. So where we have our own system, of course, this distributed network control systems with all those different sensors, controllers, and also the machines, and also on-premise kind of. But at the same time, it is within the corporate. So that's one. The other one is, of course, the ERP data, the transactional data, where it is, of course, moving towards cloud storage. But in the real-time automation, cloud is still not ready because I said availability of the data. Very important, even we cannot miss out, tens of millisecond bytes of data, where, in that time horizon. So we actually bring in this combination of real-time data with the ERP, and of course we also do the asset performance management. So basically collecting the data from assets and systems, where we use the cloud solution basically. So that's not in real time because that's scheduled in minutes or hours. That's fine. So it's a combination of how we collect the data from sensors in real time, collect the data from offline, maybe scheduled transaction system like ERP or other IS system in the enterprise, and then ensure that all the data, they are all the relationship, the dependency, the impact in terms of, we call it also sometimes the graph theory, how each data is related to the other data, whether it's technical data or maybe ERP or transactional data. So all these relationships, how we archive is very important. That we ensure having a hybrid approach of real-time data storage as well as the cloud data storage, where it's not non-real-time, you can say, and at the same time ensuring that when you need to do analysis of a real-time system, all the data, they are available, they are connected with the algorithm. And then the system is available all the time in real time. It doesn't. So that's why it's very important. And sometimes we also take the data of last 5 years. 5 years back, 10 years back, there was some incident which actually led to a failure of an industrial process or maybe utility system. So that data also is important to benchmark, compare, and then do it. Do the analytics, and we use a lot of artificial intelligence algorithms, machine learning algorithms, of course, on top of the defined mathematical algorithms, complex algorithms. So creating this for industry is very complex, and we need to actually have also we call it backup and recovery. So if there is something failing, because of whether it's cybersecurity issue or maybe because of the machines or sensors or anything not functioning well or maybe providing wrong data, we should be able to roll back the system within a second to the previous stable state. So that means the data which is there for the thousands of sensors, actuators, controllers, machines, equipment, robots, we just switch back to the normal state with this backup and recovery without interruption of the process, because sometimes the process interruption is very, very damaging for the entire process. It may lead to safety, it may lead to hazardous, let's say in a chemical plant, or maybe lead to blackout of a energy system or power system. So it's a complex way of capturing the data, archiving it. Many times we archive also in the store in the edge itself. The storage, the edge devices, the intelligent electronic devices, they have the storage at the same time in the network level storage. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Rahman. So that's a very interesting use case. Data in milliseconds and 1,000th of a second, and being able to restore back to the nearest second. Very different challenge. And what I heard you say is you're already on the journey. You have a hybrid cloud strategy, and you've managed to segregate your data. The ones which are extreme real time, what I heard you say is you've not probably moved that to a public cloud, but the other ERP and other transactional systems data, you are on the journey to move to a public cloud, and that's been your strategy. And in your case, I think that makes sense. But if I can ask a follow-up question, Mr. Rahman, the decision that from this, can we infer that because your analysis for your company and for this industry where data needs to be that real time, having that kind of data stored on a public cloud is not feasible? It's not yet ready for it. Would that be your assessment?
Yes, because as I said, the availability is very important in millisecond. I would say availability of the data, because that affects the process, the automated process. I'm not talking about our customers, but we automate their entire utility plant in terms of power system or energy system. They're all highly networked system. So it's because of that. And also having the wrong data there, maybe in a, out of maybe 1,000 different data points, if you have 2-3 data points which are sort of giving you wrong data, it can lead to the algorithm running on the wrong data, and it will take a decision which may interrupt your plant operation or your power system. So that's the reason why we don't do that, because we have actually, so it's like you can say we have the real-time automation. We create a demilitarized zone. It's called DMZ. It comes from the defense, you know probably. And with the DMZ, we then connect to the ERP. for our customers. Basically, we create this for our because our customer system are much more complex than our own because ours manufacturing. So we do that for our customer. So creating that, and also at the same time ensuring that the cyber security, with a defense in depth approach, we protect the data and make the system available. That's the key thing. And the cloud, as I said, mostly non-real-time data, ERP, or even asset performance data we take towards the cloud, and having a lot of cloud applications we ourselves have in those areas. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rahman. But you've opened up a very interesting debate point, and I'm going to come over to you, Mr. Aditya. What Mr. Rahman said was very interesting, and he said that he brings us to ponder on the question: is cloud ready for data of the volumes which ABB needs, as well as the every millisecond counting, and how deeply it impacts their business if there's any data point going out of sync. It would be good to hear, what your thoughts are from the other side, because you're from Dell and the product side, as to what your views on whether storage as well as cloud in general is ready to handle that kind of volumes in these kind of scenarios.
Thanks, Sheena, for the question. So, as Sir rightly mentioned about integration with cloud, with hybrid cloud strategy, basically the storage that we have designed, actually, it is cloud ready. We're talking about data critical applications on-prem, applications on cloud. So, if you see PowerStore, which is our storage over here, it is cloud ready. It is intelligent, it is adaptable. So, as Sir rightly mentioned, they have mission critical applications or predictive analytics to be run. So, as the storage comes up with an NVMe based architecture, a scale-out based architecture as well. So, good amount of analytics can run. You're talking about integration with cloud, where you can replicate your data to cloud as well. You can do an analytics on-prem as well as the access of the data can be done efficiently on the storage system. Because of predictive analysis, you also get a good amount of, as Sir mentioned, there are multiple restore points as well. So, the data can be, the analysis can be done properly on a PowerStore system predominantly. So, when you talk about various kind of applications, typically Oracle, the OLTP or an OLAP kind of an application, or any basically a Splunk or any kind of data, so that can efficiently run on a PowerStore kind of a system. So the storage nowadays has evolved because of the NVMe architecture as well. As Sir mentioned, we require millisecond of latency. Because of the NVMe architecture nowadays, that particular thing is also possible. So the storage nowadays, or the evolution of storage, has become in such a way that integration with cloud with analytics is possible.
Thank you, Aditya. That was a good insight. Thank you so much, and we'll come back to that point again. I'm going to quickly move over to Mr. Atul. Mr. Atul, if you could just come on video as well as. Is Mr. Atul here? Okay, I think he isn't here. I'm going to quickly move over to Mr. Nikhil. Nikhil, if you are on video, there you are. Thank you so much, and welcome to this discussion. And you've heard kind of what we've been going through and some of the journeys of the other panelists over here. You're from a similar financial services industry, similar to what Ratna ma'am earlier spoke about. And what are your challenges with regard to handling data and growing volumes of data, and what's been your strategy in terms of the overall digital transformation, but also specifically in terms of data and data governance?
Sure. Thank you, Sheena. And after hearing different views from both the panel, I think my views were altogether different, and I was thinking how to converge them together. So if I take you to a journey of how we used to think of technology and data in two decades back in year 2000. So let it be Mr. Sanderson working in Bloomington, Illinois, or Mr. Purohit working in Pune. Everybody was working on a fat client application where there is a logic of the application is built in a a VB app or an app where it is a application which connects to some database somewhere, which is also residing in the same company, and it just does a transaction, which is an update transaction basis the logic which is defined. Fast forward 10 years later, every organization in 2010, I would say, went into 100% web-based applications. There used to be huge web farms where the logic of business application used to be written in a web application on a web server, and the data still was a transaction. So you take a business logic, okay, is the age of a particular person is more than this years, then apply this much of an insurance to this person and move ahead. So that was a logic which was built, and it was still a logic-driven business. Fast forward 10 more years today, there is nothing like a logic which is coded in an application. The entire business model for across industries, let it be a manufacturing industry like an ABB, or let it be a financial services institution, a small financial services institution like ours, or a larger bank, as mentioned by Mrs. Ratna. In all such situations, it is data-driven decision making. When we talk about data-driven decision making, it means that you need to have enormous data. You need to have associated models to decide that based on this past data of ours or the past data of industry, are we going to take this particular decision? So it is no more an algorithm which is written on the business application on a server side. It is basically, there are models, and everybody speaks about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So it's an exciting buzzword which is being spoken for last 3.5 years. Very effective, but believe me, it is as effective as it sounds. So organization like ours, we do want to upscale ourselves fast. So an organization which looks at 10, 20, 30, 40, 50% growth is an organization which is still considered crawling. Now organizations, they would want to grow at a scale of 150%, 200%, 250%. The only way to execute that is to have data-driven decision making. When I say so, if let's say Vistar is a financial services institution and we do business loans, we are a pioneer in business loans in the country. And what we do is, basis a small kirana store which is serving in a small town of Tamil Nadu, how that business is doing, based on that, we have to take a decision as to how much of a loan requirement that person has and how we can address his loan requirement. Different credit assessors across the country will have a different psychology, different psyche, and the decision making would be different. But if you have data-driven decision making, then you can enable them with the experience data of that particular geography, that particular sector, that particular age group, that particular family background. With all these things put together, you can give a decision that, okay, this particular person or a company or a proprietary firm would require this kind of loan. And this is what the journey has transformed from a basic algorithm written in a fat client small VB application to a data-driven underwriting, data-driven loan sanctions, data-driven orders. So when you say that to Amazon, what should I buy today? What Amazon does, or Alexa does for that matter, is she is going to recommend you a couple of things. How is she recommending? It is, she's mining your own data as to what kind of profile you are from, what are the kind of things you have shopped earlier, and basis that and a few more parameters, what is the budget in which you shop generally. Basis these 4 or 5 things, it's going to recommend you that these are the 2-3 things you should look at, and they are more or less very contextual. And this is the power of data, and this is the power of data we have seen. When we talk about the power of data, there is an important aspect which companies like Dell, which is here, companies like IBM, companies like Amazon, Microsoft Azure, all these play a very important role, is to equip organizations like ours, the financial institutions, the overall ecosystem, to equip us to be able to mine this data effectively and we have been talking to some of these companies lately, and including Google. All of them have this strength of helping smaller and larger institutions in terms of mining, storing. So storing the data, structuring the data, mining the data, and giving effective data. So out case, when we are talking about cloud, a private cloud, a public cloud, or let's say some people who would be a little too conservative would have their own still close data center of their own, because I have gone through this journey for last 20 years, that, having my private data center to a private cloud, and then what needs to go to a public cloud. I would say the end in a cloud, that itself speaks a lot. That the future is cloud. The future is huge and immense data, and the future is mining the data and getting an effective outcome. So for organization like ours, we have already embarked on that journey in terms of it was also mentioned by that data-driven algorithms to be written in ML models, and then getting an outcome so that you can increase your business multifold, have a better reach to the right customers. So for Vistar, if you ask me, what are the few important things? Important thing is get the right customers, assess them right, and then get appropriate behavior of repayment inbuilt into those customers so that they can honor their loans and further increase their credit limit. So these are the few things which a financial institution would look at. I think all of this is possible with huge data, huge exploitation of this data, and then associated use of AI. And I will just add one more thing to it, is the next step when we say that we cannot be away from cloud. Is next step is for all organizations across sectors is this digital contracting, which is when somebody talk about Ethereum, or somebody talks about on what technology, this blockchain technology, how is it going to be used. All this will make sure that some way or the other, all of us are going to be on cloud and going to be exploiting data in a big way. That's what I would say, Sheena.
Thank you so much, Nikhil. That was very well articulated, I think, and you took the discussion to a logical next point, which is after you have your foundation, which is you've done your hybrid cloud, or you've done whatever, maybe even on-prem, you've done your data strategy and you have your infrastructure, you have your storage, but then how do you leverage that for the next level of the game in terms of really plowing into it to drive your business growth, your business decisions, automating the way your business model is, and really bringing transformation on the ground from a real life basis. And thank you so much for elevating the conversation there, Nikhil. I'm going to invite you, Mr. Sumanth, and you've heard the discussions that we've had, and we covered basically the strategy some of our panelists here from their esteemed organizations have adopted to move to cloud, and you can see that there is a sense of openness to do that. And then we spoke about is cloud ready for some scenarios where you have very high data volumes, but also it needs to be very, very real time in terms of milliseconds, and we debated whether cloud is really ready for that, right? And now we're talking about how we can leverage AI, machine learning, and really and also whatever analytics out there to transform your business model. Could you share your thoughts on some of all of these aspects, and what would be your advice to clients like the ones we've had here in terms of their strategy around data and how they can leverage taking this to the next level?
Hey, first of all, thanks a lot, Sheena, and thanks a lot for giving this opportunity to be in this forum. Very interesting perspectives, both from Mr. Rahman and Mr. Nikhil, as well as Ms. Ratna. All were different use cases, and everywhere it was a different scenario. But one thing which commonly struck across all these scenarios was it is data-driven. like Mr. Nikhil said, today in fact it's a very funny point if you actually look at it. Today we trust on Facebook and Instagram as a platform, but we are not interested in trusting a public platform like an Amazon or Azure or any other cloud service provider. Now, here is a very interesting point. We spoke about data being important, whether it's for your analytics or whether for any sort of informed decision making in the future. Now, what is more important apart from the data is that where exactly is this data residing? What is the underlying infrastructure? It really doesn't matter whether it's staying on premises or if it's staying on cloud. It totally depends on what business you are into and what are the various workloads you have, which are the business critical ones and which are not the business critical ones, basis which you're going to take a conscious call, whether operationally as well as economically in terms of where do you want to keep it. That is when the entire economics will fall into the place. As well as talking about availability, I think it is very much doable whether you're going to keep it on premises or you're going to keep it on cloud. In fact, today is a world wherein we are talking to multiple customers from our side. Now, we being a very vendor agnostic people because we are system integrators out here, the way we look at it is how can I suggest customers to build a very robust multi-cloud kind of environment. Doesn't matter where your data is going to reside. How can you build a amazing management and orchestration layer wherein you can have a single view of your entire workload across various business units of yours, and how can you actually manage it so effectively probably in a self-service kind of a mode. And I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the very important thing which Mr. Rahman actually brought in is in the security side. He said, what happens to the data? I cannot really put it on the cloud. Yeah, it's actually right, because the kind of data what he deals with, especially with the kind of production what happens out in ABB, it makes a lot of sense for it to stay on premises, keeping the confidentiality. With the underlying infrastructure likes of Dell Technologies, which is available, by the way, whether you are going to put it on premises or on cloud. You can certainly use the kind of capabilities what they have built, whether you are talking about movement of data from a hot tier to a cold tier, or you can talk about archival of data or a backup of data. The entire data management, the entire gamut of solutions what is required can be bought in. Doesn't matter whether you're going to put it on premises or cloud. But if a business is looking for flexibility, they're wanting to have a larger presence across geographies, yet they want to have a singular view. I think multi-cloud way of running the show is the way to go, and having a singular, very good management and orchestration layer certainly helps them out to build it. In fact, technologies which comes in again from Dell Technologies in the likes of VMware, vCloud and stuff like that, certainly helps customers do that. We have done that in multiple places. Very effective.
Thank you, Sumanth, for putting a nice closure on all the areas that we discussed. And basically, to summarize what you said, given the businesses are different, there are various different applications out there. What you're seeing really out there with clients is you need a good multi-cloud environment. You need that multi-cloud environment to integrate and talk to each other. You need that environment to cater to your business security, privacy, and compliance related regulations, and to then have a single view into data, but also leverage it for your business decisions, either using analytics, artificial intelligence, or AI, and basically plow into that. Thank you so much, Sumanth. And what I will do quickly is to hand over to you, Shirley, to take this conversation forward.
Thank you so much, Sheena, for moderating the session and putting the whole thing together. I will now like to invite Mr. Kapil Jain, who is the Senior Systems Engineer, Storage Platform Solutions with Dell Technologies, to help us with his remarks on smart data and scalable storage. Over to you, Kapil.
Thanks, Shruti. Thanks, Sheena, again. And, it was good to have insight from different organizations and how we are progressing towards the journey of, I must say, digital transformation. So, as Suman said, we need to have a very strong infrastructure, and that's what Dell has come up with a product called as PowerStore. Just to highlight few of the important features that PowerStore has, when we talk about, um, I need different organizations have different kind of data, right? You must be aware of that. We have log, vvols, all different kind of data that we actually need to store. So the product comes up with supporting any kind of work, first of all, and not only that, we just spoke about the performance, the real time operations. How much performance does it need? So talking about the performance, the latest drives that we have in the industry right now, when we talk about the NVMe flash drives, so the storage class memory drives, and that boosts the performance at your infrastructure level. That comes with the PowerStore. And in today's world, we all know that we have a lot of data, right? So the amount of data that we actually store in our storage system that can also be deduplicated and compressed, so that I do not actually need to purchase the amount of capacity that I require to store that data. So efficiency in data reduction that comes into picture in all the organization for any kind of data, that becomes really critical for any storage platform. And that's something that PowerStore comes with a 4:1 data reduction guaranteed from Dell without any assessment. And that's purely because of the architecture that we are using. And when we talk about the architecture point of view, we have been talking about AI, ML, and everything. In the end, our main goal is how do we reduce the man hours, right? So how efficiently my storage platform infrastructure can help me, so that I don't need to manually do a lot of tasks such as storage provisioning tasks. And that's where the DevOps teams needs help, that they need to have plugins available in the storage platform so that they can do the coding and automate a lot of storage provisioning tasks that actually take a lot of days time, and then now it is possible to do within few minutes. Not only that, when we talk about being an autonomous appliance, so let's say we don't really want that I need to monitor all my storage systems separately and just monitor which appliance or which storage system is getting full, when is it getting full, what should I do, all those things. So that's something that every organization would like to have an inbuilt feature in the storage itself, using the machine learning, that it can inform the storage administrators or the storage team that this is going to get full in next 10 days, take an action. So that's something that's built into the PowerStore operating system itself. And no matter if you have one system or 10 systems from Dell, we have the Cloud IQ that's available free to use with all the storage platforms that can help in proactive health analysis for all these storage platforms available. Now, using the containerized architecture in the PowerStore, which makes it easier to fix any specific or any particular service that we are running in the code. And that makes it the differentiating feature in the operating system itself. The way we are using the operating system is a container based. Now, I'm not sure if any other organization has that, but that the main differentiating feature is that we can run the user virtual machines, which are more data intensive, directly on the platform itself. That gives us a flexibility of running the my virtualized environment, which are more compute intensive, on my existing ESXi or HCI solution, and move the virtualized workload, which are more storage intensive, directly on the PowerStore platform itself. And that it comes with a 2U form factor, and as we spoke about that at the edge locations, it gets really important of data analytics, right? So where we require smaller footprints. So a 2U form factor fits into the best at the edge locations where we can perform the data analytics locally. And when the data gets analyzed, that can be accessed centrally at the core location, and then also gives us an option to migrate it to the cloud using VMware on AWS. Now we have different consumptions also available. Now the main key point that we had so far discussed from almost all the panelists were talking about availability. First point, this gives us the 6 nines of availability. Talking about performance, this is built for performance, providing us the performance using the latest media available in the technical or storage industry. And third point about cloud, so it gives us a flexibility of migrating the data from my core location to the cloud as well. Talking about the analytics, I spoke about having at the edge location, which gives us the flexibility of analyzing the data at different edge locations. And not to forget about the container-based architecture, which makes things really simple and easier, and also helps in further innovations for AI. So that's about the main key features that I would like to highlight about the industry. Over to you, Shina. Shall I?
Thank you so much, Kapil. Before I would like to move on to Mr. Sumanth, I have an audience question for you, Kapil. And the question is, which is the biggest challenge you face while managing the high growth of data in your storage infrastructure? What would you like to say on this?
I think I've worked with different organizations, right? So in providing them the solutions. And this is the main biggest challenge that they face. You know, the amount of growth that is exponentially growing, considering as Mr. Nikhil said, it's from the last 10 years how the things have changed now, and and also as we heard that it's more data driven. So important for us that we need to have an infrastructure where I can scale up easily. Right, so I should not be confined to a siloed system, which I need to manage separate siloed systems separately. Have to remember all different restrictions, constraints of each box from each vendor separately. And this becomes important that, okay, if I have a clustered system, which I can scale up whatever I want, how much ever I want, I can scale out. That gives me flexibility to add more compute as well as storage. That solves a lot of problems or issues that we face while scaling in terms of adding more capacity in managing the infrastructure for storage side.
Thank you so much, Kapil, for this insight. Moving on, I would now like to invite Mr. Sumanth Chavan from Chavans Business Ventures for a brief intro on their organization. Over to you, Mr. Sumanth.
Okay, thanks, Shirley. All right. So, first of all, again, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. And I'm in the interest of time, I'll try to keep the entire presentation as short as possible. Chavans Technologies, as such, we are a technology company. I would, in simple terms, I'd like to keep it as system integrators. And we have been helping a lot of customers in terms of building their IT setup, helping them make sure that if it's a private cloud if they're wanting to build, or adopting a public cloud, or say for example somebody has started their business, how is that they need to approach having a very robust IT infrastructure in the back end. These are things what we as an organization really focus on. Now, keeping that in mind, we obviously know the kind of opportunity what actually technology is brought into place. Today, whether we want to order food, or we want to book a cab to move from one location to another, or we want to have any sort of a service, it's all right now on demand on our edge devices, on our mobile phones. Now, how is that with this being in place? It does bring a lot of complexity for our friends who are managing IT in the backend for these organizations. But yet, at the same time, as users, there's a humongous amount of opportunity which is actually bringing onto the table. So now, keeping that in mind, if you ask me what is that we as an organization do, we are trying to build people-centric smart spaces. Now, what we have done is we have put people in the center, whether whether it's a customer, my customer's customer, or their vendors, or their partners, and then try to build a robust, connected space or a smart space around it. Why I say smart is because I'm also kind of emphasizing on the intelligent part of it. wherein a particular emphasis to machine learning comes into place in a connected way, and how is that we can operate this entire thing with a great amount of trust built into it. Now, that said, if you ask me in terms of, okay, how is that you guys are doing it, then I would say we are trying to do this by creating tech intensity in these organizations. Now, when I say tech intensity, what I'm trying to say is, if you have some of the best world-class technologies in place, whether it's the likes of technologies adopted by, built by Dell Technologies or VMware, or whether it's a cloud technology in the likes of AWS or Azure, bring those into your endeavor at the earliest, and make sure that you build enough capability around these technologies so that you can create your own digital IP of trust built into it. When I say trust, I'm obviously emphasizing on the cyber security set of solutions. Not only that, there's another twist to it as well. It's also about the people who get associated in doing this entire activity, in creating the tech intensity in these organizations. And that is where exactly we come into play. Okay, now here are a few stats. Today, we are a 5-year-old organization. Last fiscal year, we touched about 7+ million revenue. And very interestingly, we have been only working with about 140 plus enterprise customers. The reason why we have been only doing this is because the idea is, how can we as an organization give solutions to our customers end to end and not be a single point solution vendor? Because with all the conversation which is going on in the back end till now, what we thought was, okay, how can we make data available? How can we make it all data driven? Now, when you're talking in these angle, obviously what really matters is how can we keep the entire IT infrastructure in such a way that data is given a lot of prominence, and so that you can do anything on top of that, whether it's data analytics or you build an AI on top of that, or you bring automation on top of it. So all these comes into picture in that way. Now, obviously, one of the key partnerships what we have today is of Dell Tech. When I say Dell Tech, obviously, I'm also emphasizing with VMware and all the other organizations which comes into play, along with the majority of your storage, compute, and the backup set of solutions which are there with Dell Technologies. Now, certain stats, just as a food to your mind. Probably today, I think we might have about a billion, Windows devices, about a billion Mac devices, and probably about 2 billion Android devices. By 2030, that is in another 9 years' time, we are staring at about staggering 50 billion connected devices and almost about 175 zettabytes of data by 2025. The entire conversation what we had till now in this particular webinar was all about how do we manage data, how do we manage the growth of data. And here it is, exponential data growth staring at us. And this is what we have done. We have, keeping all this in mind, we have put our technology stack together. Again, like I said, we have kept people in the center, and then we've built smart spaces around it. The very first being the infrastructure set of solutions. When I say infrastructure, we are actually talking about how do we build a private cloud for you? How can we help you adopt a robust public cloud? How can you actually build a nice hybrid cloud or a colo? Whether it doesn't matter whether it's your compute or your storage or a hyper-converged infrastructure, virtualization, your whether it's networking. So all these solutions come into play over there. Your business applications like your ERPs and your databases. And when it comes to DevOps solutions, we're talking about basically your IoT, AI, again, particular emphasis to machine learning. How can we utilize that? Hyper automation. How can we give you developer tools so that you can build your own applications for your business? And of course, various form factors in terms of your edge solutions, whether it's your productivity solution, set of solutions like Microsoft 365, which comes into place over there. Now again, all this, how can it work together with a great amount of trust built into it in the form of cybersecurity solutions or ethical AI or privacy. And then all these things can actually work in tandem with a set of services, whether it's a support services or deployment services or managed services, even education services for that matter. All this together will kind of give a lot of value add to the customer in terms of building an overall robust IT infrastructure. And that is what we expertise in. Like I said, it's all about how can we empower organization. That's our purpose. And we do this by creating tech intensity in your organizations. So if you feel this is interesting and you would want to have more conversation with us regarding this, please feel free. These are our coordinates. We'll be more than happy to get in touch with you and help you out in building a robust infrastructure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sumanth, for a detailed understanding of what exactly Chavan Business Ventures does and can help us doing. Before I would like to thank you, I quickly have a question for you. Chavans does partner with a lot of technology providers, whether it is on-premises or cloud. What approach would you take to help customers build a multi-cloud environment without being biased towards on-premises or cloud? What is your take on this?
Yeah, interesting question. The way, in fact, we approach every customer is about, okay, what business are they into in first place? Now, basis that, okay, what is their spread geographically, and what is that they're wanting to do in each of these geographies? Do they want to have it in a decentralized way, their entire IT architecture, or do they want to have it in a centralized way? Basis that, we'll try to understand what is their business critical applications and what are the non-business critical ones. We evaluate it. Like I said, both operationally as well as from an economic point of view, we try to see what should be the underlying IT infrastructure basis the workload. It's not about whether I want to push public cloud or whether I want to go sell an on-premises solution. It's about what best suits for the business so that they can reach out to their customer the fastest possible way and they can have a higher productive input. That's how we in fact approach it, and thereby giving a single view, a self-servicing point of view, build a cloud within the organization and make sure that IT is no more an enabler to any organization. They're more of the way the company is in fact doing business with their customers. That's what we do. I hope I answered the question.
Thank you so much, Sumanth, for your insights. Moving on, I would now like to invite Aditya Venkatesh from Redington, India, to share his views on the entire concept. Over to you, Aditya.
Thanks, Ravi.
You're welcome.
So basically, if we consider the technology landscape, so we are moving from basically an IT modernization to a digital transformation phase. So in this digital transformation phase, IT is the fulcrum. Actually, IT is the most important thing over here. So when you talk about IT, the data is unpredictable, as Sumanth sir also mentioned. So the data is very unpredictable over here. So analyzing this particular data, getting a proper analysis done on this particular data is very important. That is where Dell Technologies comes in. Dell Technologies from a storage standpoint or from a data protection standpoint, where we are talking about security as well. We're talking about data redundancy as well. We're talking about data protection as well. We're talking about copies of data on cloud as well. So if you see the technologies that Dell provides you, and also from a Redington standpoint, these are the technologies we would implement in this phase as well. So we are talking about modern storages, we're talking about modern data protection solutions, we're talking about modern HCI solutions over here. So some of the points shall be to add it over here.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Before I let you go, I would just quickly want to ask you, what is the biggest challenge from on-premises infrastructure that restricts the transition towards digital transformation journey? What is your say on this?
Basically, the workloads. As if you see in the panelists today, they were all talking about workloads. And when we talk about workloads, we differentiate workloads in a traditional kind of a workload and a modern kind of a workloads. Where we're talking about containerization kind of workloads, cloud native workloads as well. So how do we migrate the existing workloads to the cloud? That is one thing that we have to keep in mind. And also we have to see how seamless the process is, because we would require good amount of IT infrastructure at on-prem as well as at a cloud-based environment as well. So that has to be very seamless. So that is where the digital transformation also comes in, where the transition phase from an on-prem kind of a data center to an on-cloud has to be seamless.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aditya. With this, we now end this session, which has been very interesting and the perspectives have been so on point. And I'm sure that our participants who joined us would have got some rewarding insights today, would have got certain insights on how can we tackle challenges perspective to data. I thank the panelists for sharing their knowledge and experience with us. I thank the audience as well for being with us during the Economic Times webinar powered by Dell Technologies, Redington India, and Chavans Business Ventures. Please join us for more such webinars. This is Shirley Chettiar signing off. Stay healthy and stay safe.